To be honest, I came to this movie expecting something completely different to what I got. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on the channel Real Horror. My name is Thiago, and as you read by the title, what we're going to do today, we're going to be talking about the newest psychological horror, psychological thriller, dark comedy, dark mystery, a film that came out recently at the cinemas called Blink Twice, directed by the one and only, an actress actually, Zoe Kravitz. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. So full disclosure, this video is going to be spoiler free because I just came out of the cinemas and this movie is brand new, so I just want to give my full thoughts, quick thoughts, positive and negative. So my personal experience with this movie is that when I came to this movie, I was expecting something like Fantasy Island or Truth or Dare, because the name Blink Twice, it just didn't caught my attention to be something super disturbing or horrifying. And also because of the poster, you know, Channing Tatum, he's mostly a comedy guy, so I was expecting something cheesy that I would love and I will enjoy, because to be honest, Fantasy Island and Truth or Dare are films that I actually enjoy, even though I know the quality is not the greatest. So it was a surprise when I sat down at the cinemas and this film was something completely different. And that just proves that marketing can really sell a film to the audience in general. So let's start talking about the positives, and I think the main positive aspect that this movie has is the casting. Like, we have Channing Tatum, we have Naomi Ackie, we have Adria Arjona, we have Alia Shawkat, we have Haley Joel Osment, and we also have Geena Davis. So the casting in general, I think, is what's gonna like bring people to the cinemas, because all of these actors and actresses are really popular, and some of these actors and actresses, they really haven't done horror that much. So the fact that they are here, I think that's what's gonna make this movie really popular at the big screen. I guess we can start talking about another positive aspect, which is the cinematography in general, like the filmmaking of this film, because this film is really rich and the budget wasn't that high. So I love the camera work, I love the way the director of photography communicated with the audience, because obviously this movie, obviously I'm not gonna talk about what this movie is actually about, but once you watch this movie, that because of the cinematography, you will feel as part of these characters, as part of this cast, as part of this storyline, because it honestly made me feel so claustrophobic. It made me feel extremely uncomfortable in different shots, and I think it was because a lot of close-up shots to the main actors' faces, to the villains, there was not enough wild shots where you could breathe. Most of the shots were like close frames, so you could have the villain, the victim, and just a slightly space for the landscape, so you couldn't like really look around to take a break from the film. And I think that was fantastic, and I think that really helps to build the storyline and make the storyline even stronger. That brings me to the point to the lighting and the set design, the location, the landscapes, because this just looks really rich. Like like where these characters are, which is like an island, but obviously like we just spent the time on this big house, like summer house. That overall looked really good. Like, it makes you feel like this was actually looking like a cult without looking exactly like a cult, if that makes sense. That also brings me to the lighting. I think the lighting was fantastic, especially because our characters, they all shine, especially because all of our characters, they have different skin colors, but every character really shines, especially during the night shots, especially because there is a lot of orange, yellows and reds. And it makes sense because even the poster has a lot of yellow going on, which makes sense because yellow really makes you feel unease, and orange makes you feel uncomfortable, and red is obviously the biggest color in horror. So those three colors are like the main colors in this movie, and for different options to give the audience different feelings overall throughout the whole movie. And I think that was fantastic, because obviously, for example, there is one specific scene where one of the main villains, he's giving like this monologue, and like he has a lot of orange lighting on his face, and it made me feel slightly not disturbed, but it made me feel like what the main character, the victim, was feeling. So it's all thanks to the communication between the camera and the audience. And talking about the last filmmaking aspect of this film that I really loved is obviously the soundtrack and the score, the sound design. I think it was perfect the way that communicated with the actors and with the storyline and the camera, especially because there is so many scenes where there is so much dialogue but nothing is on the background. You're just listening to the characters, so when they have a pause, you don't hear anything, especially if your screen is empty. you will really feel that. And I think that was amazing because it really made me feel like part of the characters. It was so dreadful, so uncomfortable, and slightly disturbing, especially because when the action is happening, when the chaos is happening, again, there is no like a spooky soundtrack or a score. It's all silent, and you are just hearing the stabs, the screams, the skin, everything. And that's what I'm saying, that the sound design is like one of the best, if not the best aspect filmmaking wise of this film. And obviously there is a lot of things that I have to critique about this film, because this is not a 5-star film by any chance. I give this film 3 stars. And I think the main critique that I have to give to this movie is that it really lacks of originality. Because we've seen this storyline before many times. I don't want to mention films, because obviously if I mention these films, I will spoil what this movie is about. But yeah, like the originality is not the greatest aspect of this film. However, even though this movie is not that original, it manages to be different and entertaining without being just a copycat of different films. Also, I do have to say that in the middle of the film, this movie was really dragging. I felt the 1 hour and 50 minutes. This easily could have been 1 hour and 25, 1 hour and 30, but almost 2 hours. I really felt it, and I think it's because there is not so much to explore from these victims and villains, because all of them, they spend most of the time in the same location, so we don't really have enough flashbacks or anything. So the middle part of the movie was really dragging, and in the cinemas I was like, okay, we can move on from this scene, we can move on from these characters. Like, if we, like, this movie could have had many cuts, and maybe that would have made me feel better about the movie. Maybe I would have given it even 4. But the middle part, I think, is the weakest aspect of this film. Another thing that I can critique about this movie is that this movie, I wasn't really sure what was the main purpose about it. Was this movie wanted to be super disturbing, super comedic, super mysterious? Like, it has so many aspects that it wants to go to, but it doesn't really define itself. Which brings me to the point and to the comedic aspect. Obviously, these kind of films, they need to have comedic relief. But in my opinion, the comedic relief, it felt really forced. Some of the jokes, they were like out of place. And I don't know if that goes to the writing and the script, but I think the comedic aspect could have been like touched differently. And that brings me to a point to some of the acting was very questionable, especially because like these characters, they needed to communicate what they were going through, and apart from our main girl and our main villain, the rest of the cast and the rest of the acting was not really the greatest, especially because this movie had such a strong concept. So the actors and actresses, they really needed to communicate that with the audience. But if it was not for the main girl and the main villain, I really wouldn't have got that message. And I think the last thing that I have to critique about this movie is the ending, like the last 20 minutes, because it's really the most generic ending for a film. To be honest, I thought that the film was gonna be different with the ending because of the way that it was pacing and all of that. But yeah, the ending it really took me out of it, and maybe that's why I didn't give this movie 3.5 stars, because the ending, it just didn't make any sense, especially the last 5 minutes, let's say, after the chaos happens. That really took me out of it. I just didn't believe that this character did what she did, if that makes sense. Or like the characters in general, because obviously there is many characters. So yeah, the ending is really the weakest part of this film. The movie has a very strong beginning, a really strong final act, a very weak middle part, and a very weak ending. So that's why I have a mixture of feelings in this film. That's overall my thoughts from this film, spoiler free. Obviously, if I wanted to talk about spoilers about this film, I will talk longer because there's so many things to unpack. But overall, I enjoy the disturbingness because I like disturbing films, and I think this movie is one of them. So I like that disturbingness. I also like the action sequences. I liked like the choreography when it comes to like the chase scenes, the fighting and all of that. The soundtrack was amazing. So I really recommend this movie to be watched at cinemas because of the, like I said before, the sound design. Because cinemas are the space where you don't hear anything else. You're just watching the screen, and I think that would be very effective. So I would love to know if you have watched this movie. What did you think about it? Do you think it's a great addition to the disturbingness kind of films, or do you think it lacked more stuff? I will leave to read everything, but overall, I'm really excited to see what Zoe is gonna bring to the table, and I really hope that she sticks in horror. So that was it. That was for me. I gave this movie 3 stars. I would love to read your ratings. I really hope that you have a nice end of the week. We will talk soon in upcoming reviews and rankings and everything. Take care. Talk soon. Bye bye.